Hello and welcome. In this episode, we're going over the one thing you could do that will make you stand out when trying to connect with people, what to look for when finding not just clients but referral partners, how to stay in touch with prospects without sounding like it's a nonstop sales pitch. You will get to watch me get exposed and coached by my friend Eli, and you will get instant access to Eli's gift, the follow-up blueprint. Um, Today's guest is Ely Delaney. Welcome, Eli.
It's my pleasure to be here, my friend. How are you doing today?
I am good, and our topic today is the fortune is in the follow-up.
Yes.
Okay. Now, welcome to Daily Confidence for Entrepreneurs. My name is Mostafa. I am here with another guest and another amazing topic. As usual, if you're watching or listening, please like and subscribe on whichever channel you're watching. And if you have any questions, please put them in the comments on social media, and we'll get back to you. And if you know other people who could benefit from this conversation, which is growing their business through follow-ups, please have them tagged in a comment so they could benefit from this, and or share the link with them. Now, I'm also sharing the step-by-step checklist for our program Simple Retention Formula, which is along what we're talking about today. And if you want access to this step-by-step blueprint and the process, type the word retention in a comment below, and we'll send you the link to download it. Now, welcome, Eli. How was your day so far?
It's doing awesome. Busy, crazy, Beautiful. All kinds of fun stuff.
And whereabout are you?
Portland, Oregon.
Love it. And so let me do the proper introduction to my friend Eli, and we're going to dive into a very interesting conversation that is very dear and near to my heart. And we're almost in a similar business, and you guys will find out soon here why. Now, Ely Delaney is your automated systems strategist and is known as the people whisperer. You know, the dog whisperer? This guy is like the people version, right? He's an Amazon bestseller with his 2 books, Marketing Tidbits and Networking Tidbits. With a passion for connecting people, his best-selling training course, Networking Like a Rockstar, has over 1,373 students registered globally. Eli helps speakers, authors, and coaches automate their follow-up to grow their business without having to have an MBA from MIT. He is the guy to help you build a 24/7 automated system and turn you into a follow-up rock star. And as we all know, money is in the follow-up. So hang in there, and whatever you're doing, put it aside, and stay tuned for the next hour, as Eli is going to share with you some very interesting information and some tidbits where you can apply today and see results as soon as maybe today or tomorrow or sooner, right?
Yeah.
All right, Eli, how's your day so far, my friend?
It's going awesome. Like I said, I'm busy, I'm having fun stuff going on. I've done a couple of these things already today, which is awesome. I love getting to share this stuff, and special treat for me, my daughter happens to be in town, so I'm getting to spend some time with her before she drives back on Friday.
Love it, love it, love it. So let's get started. Eli, what is your story?
Oh, there's all kinds of bits and pieces, but we'll keep it to the concise version of it.
Sure.
Previous life, I was in the rock and roll business. I was actually a roadie. Did that for quite a while. Had a lot of fun. Met some really amazing musicians, all kinds of artists in different areas. But obviously, when you know the rock and roll world, you understand that people sometimes have recreational habits. And my boss had those recreational habits that affected my paycheck. It was time for me to get out of that. So got out of that world, got into working for a small computer shop in Phoenix, Arizona, learned the ins and outs of computers, of internet services back in the day when 56K was the big thing. I know a lot of people probably listening to this don't even know what that is. Way before high speed was a normal thing. And that's how I actually started my first company, which was a web and graphic design agency. And we took that from just me by myself working out of my dining room to opening up an office. I had 5 employees and we're closing 3 to 5 contracts a week. And it was purely through networking. It was connecting with other people. I didn't pay for any kind of advertising because at the time I didn't even really know what I was doing in that aspect. It was just we've got, I need to get clients. I need to meet people. And lo and behold, fast forward, 27 years later, meeting cool people right above my head here. This is what I do. I have a lot of fun with it. And so it was the start to something that ended up being much bigger.
Love it. And then, I noticed you still have a Phoenix phone number.
Yes. Yeah. There's no reason to change it. That's been my cell phone forever. So we just keep it that way.
Love it. And so what do you do these days and who do you serve?
So we've evolved the system. I actually haven't built a website for anybody for over a decade now. As a matter of fact, we're probably going on like 14 years, I think, something like that. What ended up happening was I started teaching a lot of this stuff and teaching how to maintain websites. And I fell in love with it. Next thing I know, I had became a speaker, started, speaking on stage, teaching marketing stuff. And I realized that I might speak on stage and there might be 100 people in the audience. And maybe I get 10 people to say, okay, Eli, this is awesome. I'm ready. Here's my credit card. Let's do this. And my brain immediately went to the other 90%. What happened to them? Why didn't they buy? What did I do wrong? How can I build, get back with them later? And so I started building these follow-up processes that eventually got popular amongst other people. They were coming to me, asking me to help them with that. And eventually that turned into what we do now, which we've actually packaged it up into a program I call the Follow-Up Rockstar system. And basically it's a matter of helping our clients turn their everyday conversations into long-term conversations, evergreen processes that will work day in and day out, because you're human, you're going to get busy. Once you get it, you get 5 people, that's easy. 50 people, that's a little bit harder, but you can kind of do it. You get 500 people to follow up with, you're going to drop the ball just because you're human. So let's use the tools and technology we have to put systems in place that will take care of a lot of the heavy lifting and get us the time back that we need to have real conversations and real dialogues with people.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. So there's always this objection that I hear, and I probably have it myself, and that is that the automation and technology makes it kind of an inhuman type of approach, and it's not personal.
Yeah.
So then, in your experience, how can we make automation human and personal?
Okay, great question, because I will seriously tell you, I get asked that all the time. And that is the number one objection I get from people is, I don't want to do it because then it takes me out of it and it just doesn't feel right. People don't want to talk to a robot. And we get that. And of course, the biggest problem with that is a lot of people are using automation, whether it be an email system or a bot or automated texting, all the different things that are out there. And it's not because the software or the technology doesn't work. It's that because it's not being used properly. And that's really the big thing with it. You need to have your messaging congruent with you as a human being. What would you say? How would you say it? How would you react? And that is what makes the difference. So as a great example, I love email. Okay. Email is still my favorite form of marketing communication because I have control of it. I can make it as long or as short as I want to. And the right people will pay attention to it. That's the great thing. Some people say email marketing is dead. That's because their emails suck. That's really what it boils down to. So get away from the newsletter mindset and the constant blasting and constant pitching mindset, which is what so many business owners do, and come back to if I was going to send you an email, what would that look like? And generally speaking, it's going to be, hey, Mostafa, I had something kind of cool to come up the other day I wanted to share with you. Now, one of the examples I use this all the time. People that know, if you've ever seen me talk before, I always share this book. This is The Go-Giver by Bob Burg. Amazing, amazing book. You're shaking your head, so I'm sure you've read it, right?
Yeah, we've had Bob on the show, actually.
Awesome. Bob is an amazing dude. I love him to death. He's one of my favorite people in this world. And he's like me. He's a good dog person too. So in case you didn't know that part about him. So I share this book and I'll say, if you haven't read this book, and I'll tell people, anybody watching this right now, if you haven't read the book, go pick up a copy of it. Number one is it is about coming from a place of giving and building the relationship. That's why it's called The Go-Giver, because you know that if you do it right and just give, Karma will come back. It will come back to you. You don't know how it will. It may not be from the same person, but it will come back. And I always
Absolutely.
share this with people about how great it is. And then I say, I would love for you to go pick up a copy of this book. Go read it. It's very easy. You can read it in 2 or 3 hours and then connect with me. Reach out to me. Let me know what you thought. I would love to hear that. Okay. Now, what I just did there was I gave you a tip. I gave you a resource. I gave you a recommendation. It's not mine. It's not my book. It's somebody else's. And you and I just started a conversation about Bob, right? So now we have commonality. We're having a conversation, and I'm encouraging everybody who reads this book to message me, reach out. I don't care how you connect with me. You can connect with me on any social media site. I'm very easy to find, and tell me what impact did this book make on you? Because I want to have that. I want to hear that. Now we just started the conversation. There's no
Man,
pitch. There's no sales going on. We just started a conversation. And you can do this with everything. And the cool thing about this is I can take what I just said, what I just shared with you, and I could write that up as an email and say, hey, here's this great book. Here's why I like it so much. Here's even a link to Amazon. Check it out. And I would love it for you to check it out. It's only about a 3-hour read. Reply back. Let me know what you thought once you read it. Now we open up a dialogue. And dialogues and conversations are where actual sales happen. That's where it builds the relationship. And that's where know, like, and trust comes into play.
love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. I've probably read that book a good 9 times.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a nice and sweet story that I could read it in a day.
Yeah.
And I probably read it once or twice a year just to remind myself.
Yep.
And it's an amazing book.
Yeah.
It is an amazing
And
book.
then, and things like that. If you have, and I'm sure you have other books like that that you would recommend, that you love and that make a difference and an impact for you, by taking that. So whether that's a email, whether it's a text message, maybe it's a Facebook message, it doesn't matter what the medium is, but taking that and just saying, hey, here's something that's helped me out. I thought it might help you out too. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Now, I have talked about this book for at least a decade. I always make the joke that I should probably, reach out to Bob and see about getting some commissions at some point, because I'm probably responsible for selling thousands of this book. But I do that as a joke. But it doesn't matter if you and I are talking about the book today, or the people who got an email from me 10 years ago talking about the book. It still made a difference. It made a difference to them back then. It made a difference to you today. If somebody else here gets one of my emails, or he hears me talk about it on a different show made down the road, it doesn't matter when they hear the message is still the same and is still relevant, which makes it evergreen. And that's where automation comes into play, because then you can use tools like your CRM, your email autoresponders. You can schedule posts in social media, all the different things that are out there using automation, but you share the message just like you would in a one-on-one situation, but then you schedule it for down the road. That's automation, but it's still you talking.
Love it. So what to just do a summary in one sentence, how do we make automation human again?
Be yourself. Share
Right?
good stuff.
Share good stuff.
Yeah, that's
stop,
it.
like,
That's
constantly
share good
selling.
stuff. That's all it is. And
Yeah.
not necessarily your stuff, by the way. That is, I'll give one caveat, because somebody will mess it up.
Yeah.
And they'll start pitching their book. Don't pitch your book. Even if it's relevant, don't pitch your book, because it's still your book. Even if you're selling it for 99 cents on Amazon, it's still a pitch for your book. That takes that different element out of it. Now, there's a time and a place for that. I'm not saying you don't sell your own stuff. You do. But just sharing tips, tricks, resources, things like that are valuable, that really you don't get anything other than good karma for doing. That's where the magic really is. And then when you do have something to sell, people are more likely to pay attention, because they've already gotten value from you first.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So what is so I am thinking of, I've been working on this, before I ask my next question, is I've been working on putting a newsletter together
Okay.
for what I'm working on this week. Here's what I'm thinking about. Here's a YouTube video I found. Here's a podcast I found interesting.
Mhm.
Here's a resource or a software or tool that I found interesting, right?
Yep.
Instead of pitch, it's like, here's me and how I'm evolving. And like you said, you might find this interesting as well,
Yeah.
right? I find it that if I have a problem, chances are a whole bunch of other people have the same problem.
Oh, most
And we can
definitely.
talk about our challenges and problems. And that would probably get a better readability and engagement in terms of a newsletter or,
Mhm.
an email you send to your email, or like you said, posting on social media, be like, here's a YouTube video I found really useful this week.
Right.
Right. Or here's 12 of them. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. Let me kind of bounce something off of you for this. This is an idea for you. Is I'm not a big fan of newsletters because nobody
Right.
really wants a newsletter. They don't read it. They're literally we're bombarded by stuff all the time. But if you were to take those, say you had 5 things you wanted to share, break them out and do one email that says, hey, here's a book that I thought you might find interesting. Here's why I like it. Here's a link to it. Let me know what you thought. That's an email. And a few days later, come back with another one. Here's a great video that I saw on YouTube about XYZ. I thought it might be interesting to you. Check it out. Let me know your thoughts.
Absolutely.
And
Does
you
it
can
have to
break
be
that
like
out
really
like
simple, like 2 sentences? Hey, John, today
Yeah.
I found this video. I thought you might find it interesting. Click here to find out more about it. Have a great day, Mostafa.
Yeah,
Like, it
because
doesn't
that's
have
what
to
you
be
would
like
do.
15 pages newsletter type of deal.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Nobody wants to read 15 pages of stuff.
Yeah.
Only
I
if
love
they're
it.
if it's very topical at that moment will they
I
ever spend that much
love that
time.
idea. 'Cause
So yeah, break it down. And like, if you were going to send me an email, if you found something powerful, you would literally send me an email that says, hey, Eli, I found this that I thought was interesting. And I thought it might be useful to you. Check it out. Here's the link. That's if you were going to send me that email, that's what it would essentially look like, right?
absolutely.
There would be no fancy graphics or long, big just descriptions or anything like that. It's just, pop open Gmail and go, hey, this is something I found that I thought you might find useful. Here's why I like it. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Boom. Now, here's the thing with it. This is a psychological thing, is that, yes, we know we're on people's lists. There's no hiding of that. People are not stupid. They know that they're on a list, but you don't have to shove it in their face by being boring. You can send one little tip that looks and feels like you stopped, opened up your Gmail and sent that email to me personally, and still use the same system. You're still using the same software, the same technology behind the scenes, but it looks, acts, and feels like you sent me that message. And when you do that, we're not hiding anything. We're not trying to be devious, but we're not blatantly saying, hey, this is an email that's got a whole bunch of crap that you're not going to pay any attention to anyway, and it went out to 10,000 people. You're just saying,
Absolutely.
hey, there's something cool.
You just gave me a really good idea to break it up, because here's where I was getting stuck, and that is creating an entire email with the video, with the thought, with this, with that.
Yeah.
That would take me an hour or two to put together. But you just gave me an amazing idea. Like, here's a quick thing. Hey, I just found this video really interesting. I could blast that to my entire list.
Yep.
In a matter of 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I could probably have templates built around the video, the book, the audio, what I'm having challenges with this week. Like, there's like 4 or 5 templates that I could use and build. And here's a tip for you, gang. The first time that you send that email out, you create your template. From then on, you use that template if you're in Infusionsoft or ActiveCampaign or any other type of email software. So that was a good coaching moment for me. I love it.
And thank you. And we do that. I'm happy to share that. And that's actually what we do, is we teach our clients to do it. And we have the templates for them to use. And the idea is then you mix and match it. Again, you make it evergreen. So when somebody comes into your world, they may not get today's message. They get the one that was at the beginning. So my claim to fame is I have a campaign that runs for over 3 years. My running joke is that I could go outside and get hit by a bus today. I'm still going to sell you stuff for 3 more years.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah. Now, people bite back on that one and they freak out about me saying that. So rest assured, I look both ways twice before crossing any streets and I avoid buses. But it goes to show what's possible that you build this, you build it so it's adding value, it's timely, but not time based. It's evergreen and then automated. You set it up and just let it run. When I built this, I would build like 4 emails and maybe I was actually 6 emails. I would sit down in a half a day, write 6 emails with ideas, and that's coming from scratch. And then they would get put into my system. And then a month later, I'd come back and do another 6. And a month later, I'd come back and do another 6. And I was just always 2 extra ahead. And lo and behold, after doing that for a while, next thing I knew, I had 3 years worth of stuff. I don't have to touch it. I go back and I update. Sometimes things they're not really what I would recommend now versus what happened then. I might take an email out and replace it with a different one. But when somebody comes into my world, they start at the beginning and they go through the process. And, you want to have the fun part of this. Once you get it for a couple of years, you can get to the end, you just loop it back to the beginning because nobody will remember that far back anyway. You can use that if you want to, or you can keep going. But the idea is use that content forever because it's evergreen and always, always will be valuable.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. I think that's just gonna help. That one tip, gang, if you're watching or listening, and if you're watching or listening, you have any questions for Ely, put them in a comment and we'll make sure we cover that question. So Ely, what is the first campaign that we should start with? What's the one must thing that we have to have that?
The first thing you have to have when you're out there is you have to have some form of lead magnet. And lead magnet is a boring, sterile term with it, but it literally is the way people can get to know more about who you are and how you can help them. And that we see that as, there's different things. There's a book, there's checklists, there's videos, video series, all kinds of different stuff out there. My personal favorite is a checklist. And a checklist is great for 2 reasons. Number one is it's very easy to create. You can have it up and running 100% in half a day. Okay. The second thing is because it's so simple, it's only 2 or 3 pages. It also makes it very consumable. You want something that's fast to consume and creates an urge of action right away. This is where a lot of people miss the boat because if you're like me and pretty much everybody else that I really have talked to, you download stuff all the time because we're information junkies, but you got stuff that you've never even looked at. You might have a video series that you bought, a program that you bought and you never logged in to go check it out. Or somebody has a book and you got the book, you downloaded the book and you looked at the cover page and the forward, and that's as far as you got with it.
Yeah.
A checklist, literally on the spot, they can get it, they can skim it because it's checklist format. It's not going to be long paragraphs or anything like that. And they can go, oh, wait a minute, this is awesome. Instead of spending 2 minutes skimming it, they're going to spend 10 minutes reading it, and you give them something actionable right then and there so they can take action within the hour. That's huge because that shows them in advance you're easy to work with, you're knowledgeable, and you can get them results right out of the gate.
Love it. So you want to give them a checklist or something very short and sweet.
Yeah.
And have an action item at the end.
Yeah. And there's going to be 2 actions. Technically, there's 2 actions because the first one is for something for them to do, something for them to actually go get results. But then you always have to also have your true call to action, which is what's the next step? How do they connect with you when they go, this is awesome, tell me more? And, for a lot of people, I work with a lot of coaches, consultants. I know you do too. People that are in the speaking world, we have, book on our calendar. Well, that can be the easiest one. That's what I recommend for most people is like, hey, if this was useful and you'd like to have a conversation and see how we can really help you and your team go to the next level with whatever this thing is, then here's a spot to go grab a spot on my calendar. If nothing else, we'll have a good conversation. I'll give you some action steps that you can take and run. But if otherwise, we could probably end up working together, and we'll find out on the call. We'll see.
Yeah, I think the comment about the shortness of your checklist and what you're providing is very important, and I think a lot of people get stuck on providing hours of content and tens and dozens of pages of content, and just suffocating people with information. And then, so this is what I learned recently. As long as I've been in marketing, there is way more value in something that you give away if it takes less time to do it than it does like 6 months. Right? If you could fix a problem in 6 minutes, there is way more value in there than there is if you could fix the same problem in 6 months and act like you've been around the block for so long. And then if you make it complicated, there's not much value in there.
Right. And that's where and that is so true, because I'm guilty of that. It's like I always have something else to share. It's like, oh, but we could do this too. We could do that too. We could do this. And I had to find myself pulling back in a lot of situations. And if you have all these ideas, instead of making one great big thing, make a whole bunch of little ones and let people kind of pick and choose what actually stands out for them.
Yeah.
That's one thing to do. But also, you want to have it super simple and short, for the fact that we live in a time deficit society right now. We are swamped. We don't have enough time to do the things we need to do. So if you can give them something in that short amount of time, what that ends up doing is making it easier for them to actually take action on it. Because you're like, I'm not going to give you 10 things to do. I'm going to give you one. I'm going to give you 2. I even do this with my clients. We have a whole bunch of campaigns we work with. I've got a whole back end, database of all these templates and all the stuff that I could give them. And I say, you will have access to all this stuff, but not yet, because right now I want you to do this one thing, get it up and running, and then we'll go to the next step. And, by the time we finish working together, I'm going to give you the rest of it. That's you already paid for it, but I don't want you getting shiny object syndrome. I want you to do this one thing, take action,
do one thing,
get results, and then we'll go to the next step.
To the next thing.
Exactly.
Fair enough. So we have a lead magnet.
Yes.
And let's say they come in and download your checklist.
Yep.
Which we talked about your checklist. I share my checklist, and then people would download, right? And then you have a call to action on that checklist at the end. What would that call to action look like? What would you say?
It's going to be depending on your business structure, because everybody's model is a little bit different.
Give me your example. What does yours look like?
Mine basically is, hey, if this sounds good and you like this stuff, you got results, I would definitely love to hear about it. I would be happy to jump on a call with you and see if we might be able to help you out.
Yeah.
Trust me. And I put this right in there. I'm like, this isn't about a sales call. This is about seeing how I can help you. If I feel that we can help you with what we have with our services, then we'll have that conversation. But it's about the conversation first. Rest assured that here's the link. I always tell people that because, we're not hiding anything. Yes, we want to get the sale. We're in business. I'm the first person to say I'm a capitalist. I like getting paid. But at the same time, that does not mean you have to throw it in people's face all the time. And you don't have to be a pushy salesman. Have a conversation, make it about just getting to know them and offering value. And, oh, by the way, I would love to work with you more. Here's what that looks like. Does that sound of interest to you?
One thing that you were talking about, I'm thinking of testing, is testing a call to action to have a conversation with our sales team, so that I'm not hiding the fact that this is a sales call.
Yeah.
Like I could even say that, hey, if you're interested in buying this, right, and you don't want to do it yourself, because you don't have time, have a conversation. Let's book a call with our sales team so they can tell you how we could do it for you. So they know it's a sales call, and I'm not going to hide that.
Yeah, no, and there's
I'm
nothing
thinking of
wrong with that
testing
at
that.
all. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't disagree with that actually. What I disagree with is book a free strategy session with me, which is basically everybody knows it's a sales call, but you're not saying it's a sales call. So
Yeah.
it feels fishy.
Yeah.
So for me, I mean, like I said, says above my head. I love meeting cool people, and if anybody who's watched me for a while knows that I'll have a conversation with anybody. I'm like the poster child for not what your children should be doing when it comes to talking to strangers. I will talk to anybody anywhere. I have done business in the drive-through of Starbucks before. Okay, so that's that, but that's my personality. So when I tell people I definitely want to have a chat with you, it is a chat. And if I think that I can help you, then I'll be like, you know what? I would love to work with you. Would you be interested in hearing how that would look?
Yeah.
But it's an afterthought kind of situation. But like what you're talking about is you're looking for qualified conversations for people who would be interested in buying. So you just change the verbiage up and say, if you would like to have a conversation with our salespeople or our sales team to see how we can help you with working with us, by working with us, here's how you would do that. So you're setting the stage with honesty. There's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely
I think that
not.
is awesome to do it that way.
I think so. And then it comes to it's a matter of testing. And one thing I want to bring up to people is like, don't be afraid to test.
Yeah.
The worst that's gonna happen is nothing, right? You
Yeah.
put it out there, and nobody takes you up on that offer, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's a cool thing about it too. I mean, you can literally you split test it and say, okay, I put it in front of 100 people here and 100 people here. These people booked calls. These people didn't. That ain't working. Move on.
Yeah.
That's an easy thing to do. And if you're going to drive like Facebook traffic or something to it, that's a quick and easy answer to do that.
Absolutely.
I also have stuff that is designed that is more in that vein. It's like, here's a presentation. Here's how we work with our clients. Watch this video. And at the end, if this sounds good to you, you can apply to work with us. That's a sales conversation. I ain't hiding anything.
Yeah.
And they go into it knowing that I'm going to offer to sell it to them.
Yeah.
I mean, if I don't, that means they ain't qualified and I don't want to talk to them. It's like, you know what? I don't think we're a good fit. Here's something you could go run with, which is something I think is really important. You may, when you get on a call with somebody, and if you think somebody's not a good fit, there's nothing wrong with shortening the conversation and pointing them in the right direction to go do something. There's a lot of credit in that because a lot of people don't do it. They will literally just say, yeah, I don't think we're a good fit. Bye. Click. That's not cool. Okay. But if you can walk away and say, you know what, I don't know, I don't think based on where you are and where we are, I don't think that we're a good fit for us to work with you right now. But here's what I would suggest for you to go take steps right now. That could be referring them to somebody else, could be referring them to a book. I have a lot of people I get on calls with that financially, they're just not ready, or business-wise, there's too new in their business. I'm happy to point them in the right direction. I'm like, you know what, go buy this book, read it, and then come back to me and let me know what you thought. And then that way it's like, cool. I'm not pitching them on anything fancy, but I still gave them value. And that 45-minute conversation might be 15 minutes.
Absolutely.
If nothing else, I help them along. That's all I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you mentioned earlier, when there's like, oh, here's this free coaching session. It's a no obligation free coaching session. That's a sales pitch.
It's a pitch. It's a pitch, and everybody knows it.
For me personally, if you tell me that, let's jump in a conversation, and then if it's a good, if you feel good about each other, you can think about signing up with our services. Then I know going in that it's a sales pitch.
Yeah.
But if you swear to God that it's not a sales pitch, and I walk in and you start pitching me and start selling me, now I'm pissed off.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And now your customer would be pissed off. So don't do that to your customers. Be honest.
Well, and it's funny. It's funny you say that, because I've had times where I've had conversations that I've booked with people, and I'll get to that point, and I'm like, I'll be honest with you. This call was not meant for me to pitch you anything, because it just wasn't. I wanted to get to know you honestly, but based on where you are, I really do think I could help you. And the cool thing is, people are very appreciative of that. I'm coming from a place of honesty of saying, you know what, I
Yeah.
didn't actually plan on trying to sell you anything, but based on these things, and I point out those things that we talked about, you know, if you're interested, I'd love to be able to talk to you about it. Sometimes we do it right then and there. And sometimes I'm like, you know what, if you're interested, I would love to book a call, but so we have more time to literally talk about that. And I have had that. I actually had somebody recently where we talked about it because I was going to be potentially speaking on a summit they're putting on. And so I just basically told them, I'm like, you know, based on this conversation, I honestly think I might be able to help you out. Would you be open to having a separate call for that? He booked on my calendar for the next day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think honesty helps quite a bit. And there's that fear, and people have the fear of appearing salesy or being pushy.
Right.
And in my experience, every single time that I was honest about my sales intentions, it actually worked tenfold better. For
Yeah.
example, I ran a workshop, and it was either a free workshop or a low ticket workshop.
Mhm.
Every time in the very beginning of the workshop, I said, guys, sometime during the next 2 to 3 days, I'm going to invite you to my mastermind program. That's where I can server support you further. And yes, that's a sales pitch, and it's coming.
Yeah.
Right. So get ready for it.
Yeah.
Every time I did that, my sales was great.
Yeah.
Every time I hate it, I didn't do that in the beginning. And at the end, they came up, all right, guys, here's a time for a sales pitch. My sales just went down and they tanked. So that honesty piece, I think, is huge.
It is. Well, and that's what people just want to know what to expect.
Yeah.
That's where the conversation is. Like everything I do when I have conversations with people, it's literally a, you know, hey, here's something, go give this a try, see if it works. If it works for you, cool, let me know. If it doesn't work, I'd love to hear that as well. Let's, you know, touch base with me. And I might connect back with them in 2 weeks and go, did you give that a try? And find out what happened there. And, you know, when it comes to that point, we're like, oh my gosh, this worked so well. It was awesome. I was like, awesome. I would love to be able to help you more. When you're ready, let's have that conversation. You know where to find me.
Love it.
No pressure involved at all.
Absolutely. All right. So we have a lead magnet. We have a call to action.
Yep.
And then some people take us up on that offer. Some people don't.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about what the follow-up to that lead magnet should look like.
So what we actually did, the very first thing is you need to follow up about the lead magnet, not immediately into the pitch or the next step or the call to action per se, but you need to have some follow-ups. And again, email is my preferred way. You can use texting, you can use phone calls, direct mail if you want to, smoke signals, whatever. Do the follow-up about the lead magnet, about your checklist.
Yeah.
Send them an email, 2 or 3 days later and just say, hey, did you get a chance to read the checklist? Did you see the part in step 3 or number 3 on the list about XYZ? And that's a great spot that if you have a case study kind of situation that you can share, that's something you could do with that, is put that right there and just say, hey, we had so-and-so that actually did this. And that was a great example of it. It's a great thing. And I'll share this right now for everybody. This is an action step. If you're not taking notes, take notes right now. Okay.
Yeah.
Get out, write an email to go out to your list, people that you have not communicated with for 30 days or more. Okay. And you're going to say the subject line is, I'm such a slacker. That's your subject line, because you got to have some fun with this, right? So I'm just such a slacker. Hey there, job of staying in touch with you. And I promise to do, or I'm sorry about that. And I promise to do better. I would love to hear what you've been up to. What projects are you working on? And is there anything I can do to help you out? Let me know. And then sign it. Now,
so what are you doing?
What are you up to? What projects are you working on? And is there anything I can do to help? Okay.
I'm literally typing this as you're.
There you go. Okay. Take that and then sign it. Now, I want you to notice one very, 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 very critical piece of the whole thing. Do you notice there's no pitch? We're not going to do a PS. If you would like to come to my next workshop, go here. None of that kind of crap. Okay. You're just going to go through and all you're doing is touching base with these people you haven't stayed in touch with for a while. Okay. Now, here is a great example of this. I had a client. Now, I actually teach this as a much bigger scale. I just gave you kind of a Cliff Notes version. First script, take it, run with it, go have fun with it. I had a campaign that I helped the client with, and it was actually a 3-email campaign using this methodology, this plan, only there was a couple of other follow-ups behind it. She sends it out. First thing the next morning, I get an email from her saying, hey, Eli, we have to stop the campaign. I'm like, okay, what's going on? She goes, everybody responded. Like, what do you mean everybody responded? She goes, no, everybody responded.
To this email?
Yes. And her calendar was booked solid for the next month.
You put a booking link there?
No. They replied to her and she said, I would love to chat with you. Here's my calendar. She made over $12,000 by the end of the week because of that email right there.
That makes sense. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And that alone, which by the way, before I go any further to this, please take that. Go do it today.
Today, gang. Today, not
Today.
tomorrow. Don't
Not
think
tomorrow.
about it for freaking 6 months. Today, try it.
Go do it. And then connect with me in any of the social media sites. I don't care where, I'm easy to find. Connect with me and tell me what happened. I have lots of these stories. I have one guy who sent that email out. I'm West Coast. He is East Coast. He sends the email at 8 a.m. East Coast time. I'm just not even awake yet at that point. So I get this email, says, holy crap, Eli, I cannot believe this. I sent this at 8 a.m. I think we were at 8 a.m. my time when I saw this, maybe 7. I've already had 20 people reply back to this. And it's not even halfway through the day yet. By the end of the week, he had a brand new $500 a month coaching program that he launched and had a person signed up for it that didn't exist. It wasn't even an idea on Monday when he sent the email. This is powerful stuff.
I could see that. You could even send a message on your social media to your people.
Yeah.
Like on LinkedIn, on Facebook, to your friends. Hey, how's it going? I'm sorry I haven't been in touch.
Yeah.
I
You can use
better.
this on the other ones as well.
I think another place where people get stuck is like, but I don't have an email list.
Okay.
Like, you don't have to have an email list. You have Facebook, you have Instagram, you have LinkedIn, you have all this other resources.
You got this thing right here. It's got an address book in it, doesn't it?
Yep.
Okay.
It definitely does. And I probably have a few.
And here's where the automation comes in. You don't have to go do anything fancy. Literally write it up in a Google Doc, do your proofreading, make sure it all looks good. And you literally copy, paste, send, copy, paste, send. If you have to do it old school and the very slow, boring way, there you go. But instead of spending 5 minutes writing it each time, you literally spend 30 seconds. And that's the low rent version of it.
Wow. Gang, if you're watching or listening, he just literally shared a 10K kind of program that you could do in a matter of today.
Yeah.
Right?
Half an hour.
If you have any objections about that, put them in a comment. I'd love to see your objections about that.
I would love to too, because so far I haven't found anybody I hasn't worked with. So far, the worst case scenario I have heard was one person I had do this, and she came back to me the next day, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, Eli, I cannot believe how powerful this was. I've gotten more responses to that email than anything I've ever done in the last 3 years." That was my worst case result. At that point, she hadn't sold anything, so that's why I call it the worst case. She made sales down the road. I don't have the numbers on that one, but I know that was literally in 48 hours. She was like, I cannot believe how responsive my list is. They never respond to this stuff, but this email was magic.
And it was so simple. So if you missed that, it's the layout is, I've done a horrible job of staying in touch. I'm sorry. I'll promise I'll do better. Just curious, what have you been up to? What projects are you working on? And is there anything I could do to help?
Yeah.
Let me know, please. Thanks, Mostafa. Thanks,
Yep.
John. All right.
Yep.
Boom, send. And the subject was, I'm such a slacker, or or your creative subject, right?
Yeah, be
And then,
creative with it, but have fun with it too. I mean, if that's a word you would never ever use, then change it up a bit. But you have to admit that's going to grab your attention. If you got an email that says I'm such a slacker, you're going to open that. You're going to check it out and see what's going on there.
so
But
someone is asking, does it work with cold outreach?
that probably wouldn't work for cold outreach, because you can't say I'm a slacker because I haven't stayed in touch with you when you don't even know them.
Here's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
It would probably work on your contacts on LinkedIn that you haven't been in touch with.
Yeah, you could do
You
that.
could say that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could do it that way.
To
Now,
start a
if you got
conversation.
somebody that's cold, let's talk about that for a second. A cold connection, first and foremost, do not buy an import list. That's a bad thing. That there's bad mojo that happens, and you're going to get a voodoo doll at some point. Do the right thing, and if you're going to reach out, whether it be email, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever it is, establish the connection in the relationship. I literally had somebody today. I love the fact that this happened today, because I get to throw them under the bus, because it was, hey, Eli, I see you're in digital marketing as well. How would you like to get 2 or 3 new booked high qualified leads on your calendar every single week? This is what my company does, and I can do it for you too. Let me know if you're interested, and I'll send you more info. I have no clue who this person is. I have never met them in any way, shape, or form. There is no relationship there. And if they had started with at least a, hey, Eli, I see we're part of a group together, or hey, I see we're similar, blah, blah, blah. We have friends connected, something to establish the conversation first. That starts us having a relationship, instead of immediately going for the juggler. And that's a big thing for me. And I know a lot of people that if you come at them like that, you're going to get nailed. Yeah. They'll block you just like that. But coming from a, hey, let's talk, let's start a conversation. For me, I'll just have a conversation with somebody, and I'll talk about maybe somebody that we're connected together, or something. If I find somebody's a dog person, we talked about that with Bob. That's one of the reasons Bob and I get along so well, because we're both dog people. Find some commonality, something you can start a real human conversation with, and then lead into that if it's the right fit. But out of the gate, it just doesn't work. It's people get pissed, really.
Yeah, you got to warm up. So, with our regular people on our list, how do we follow up with them? Like, let's say I have a few thousand people or a few hundred people on my list.
Okay.
And I haven't, what's the best way to do the follow-up? So we talked about doing the personal stuff. Here's what I'm working. Here's what I'm thinking. Is there another way to do it? And is there a way to automate this so it's done?
So here's what I would do. And I've already given you the basic overview of what to do. It's just a matter of putting the pieces in the right order. So if you haven't stayed in touch with their list the way you should, start off with I'm a slacker. Start there. Okay. And then it doesn't matter if they've responded or not. Then you can put them into the ultimate follow-up, as I call it, which is your general nurture backup stuff of the books, the recommendations, the tips, tricks, videos, stuff like that, and stay in touch with them. That can go across the board, whether they're a client or a prospect. It doesn't matter, because you're just adding value. Okay. Then you talk about it differently. You can have a different form of conversation based on if somebody is a client or if somebody's a prospect. Obviously, if they're a prospect, you can warm them up to a sales conversation. And there's 100 different ways you can do that. But always segregate things down. Segment things is the better word, sorry. Segment things down to who are prospects, who are clients. Because if you pitch a client on something they're already in, they will get annoyed and you look silly. So pay attention to that stuff. Those attention to detail points are night and day difference in the results you get. But you can literally have everybody in the same basic stuff. If I'm going to share a book with you, it doesn't matter if you're a referral partner, a casual acquaintance, a prospect, or a client. If that book has value, the book has value. So it's okay to send that to everybody.
Yeah.
As long as as long as it's a good fit for that group.
Yeah.
You know, I do mostly business stuff because most of the people I'm associated with are entrepreneurs. And so there are certain industries, depending on what it is, that they're not going to recommend business books because their clientele are consumers. That doesn't make sense to do that.
Love it. You talk about thinking in or about campaigns. What do you mean by that?
So I touched a bit on this with what I call it the ultimate follow-up, or AKA the Ely gets hit by a bus campaign. That is the think evergreen, think in processes. But I want you to think all of your communication like a campaign. Most people think strategic one-off situations. And what ends up happening is they write an email and then they send a blast to their list. And they write an email and send a blast to their list. Stop doing that. It's too much work. It's too hard. It's easy to forget. It's easy to get busy, get distracted. Things happen. Don't do it that way. Stop and think about campaigns. Maybe you have an event coming up. Sit down and put together all of the invitations that you're going to do for the next, 6 weeks. Put them all in place at one time. This one goes out today. This one goes out next week. This one goes out in 7 more days. This one goes out 3 days after that. Be strategic about the timing. Think in campaigns. Also, remember, one touch doesn't do it anymore. You have to remind people. All of our media, all of our marketing tools, whether it be email, Facebook, texting, LinkedIn, any of the stuff that's out there. I mean, more and more people are using like WhatsApp and Telegram for messaging as well to communicate with their community. It doesn't matter what the medium is. We're getting bombarded by, used to say 3,000 messages a day. It's probably closer to 10 now. So you have to hit them more often, but you don't have to hit them so hard. That's the thing, is it used to be, boom, this is really big over the top thing, but that was one of 2 emails they got that day. Of course, they're going to pay attention to it. When it's one of 200 emails, chances are they're going to skip it. So you got to remind them, you got to come back again. And so my recommendation is think multiple touches, multiple medium over multiple days, and be strategic about it. That's where thinking in campaigns comes into play. When you do that, you get out of rush mode, you get out of fire mode, you get out of emergency mode, and it makes it so much easier. When I have, as a great example, when I do a live event kind of situation, I used to do a lot of joint venture webinars with people where I would present my program to their audiences. I had it so strategic that it would take me 45 minutes start to finish to create the landing page, all the emails, the entire campaign set up and ready to go, and all the swipe file ready to that client, ready to go. Because I had it in a campaign. It was all scripted out. So I knew exactly what was going to happen, when, where, how often, time of day was important, all that stuff. That's what we're talking about here. Take the time to think it through and be more strategic instead of tactical.
Yeah.
Tactics will only get you so far.
Love it. So I'm thinking, think back, sit back, think about it, and don't be spontaneous about this kind of things. Like, oh, I got to do this right now, and then do it, and then forget about the rest of the stuff. Like, lay it out, plan it out, put it on paper. It's a lot easier. People think it's hard, but it's actually a lot easier when you plan it out and you decide what you're going to do. When you think it through, actually think it through, think about your customers, what they're expecting. And then when you do it, you'll see more results. And it's, the spontaneous stuff doesn't produce a lot of results.
Yeah, and let me add something to that, because I think it's really important, because I'm sure you've got people that are a bit on the higher level of, they've got the software, they've got the technology, whether it be Infusionsoft / Keep or ActiveCampaign or whatever. As you're starting to do this stuff, when I talk about being strategic, one of the most powerful things and the best thing you can do, plan it all first, create all your stuff, write all your emails in a Google Doc, and one email per document, by the way. It helps keep things very linear so you don't screw it up. Okay, because we're humans, we make mistakes. So eliminate the friction that's going to screw things up. One document for one email, multiple documents. Take what's your landing page going to look like? Write all the copy for the landing page. Each of those emails, it should say, here's the subject, here's who it goes to, here's when it goes out. And you plan every piece of that before you ever touch your software. Get it all ready to go, because then when you get in your software, it's like copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, and you're going to be fast with it.
Love it. Ely, please tell us about your gift, the follow-up blueprint.
Yeah, so this is something that I had originally put together ages ago from a standpoint of networking, face-to-face networking. Now, the world has changed so much since then. So I've revamped it. I updated it a little while ago. And because of everything that happened in 2020, I also created a mini course that actually goes with it for how to network online. It's how to network in an online world. And so this is something that I love to give away as a get you started. You're meeting people. You should be meeting people. Conversations lead to sales. If you're not having the conversation, you'll never get the sale. And so the way you connect with people and follow up after that initial in-person or virtual handshake is the night and day difference. That's what's going to make the difference for you. And so the follow-up blueprint is a guide to give you the ideas of what to do, how often, how to connect with them in different media, stuff like that. And then the online world actually is a video series that I put together. It's a very short thing. It's a mini course that is part of it now. I just added to it for the simple fact of we need to know how to network properly in the digital world as opposed to the physical world, because we've got both now. And sometimes, I just spoke for a group in the UK this morning, and it was a blast. I just connected, and I've got people booked on my calendar to talk to them for next week that came from this particular event, that came from another event that I was a guest speaker at for another event about 2 months ago. And that was also based in the UK. Or no, they were based in Sweden, actually. And so we are in this virtual world. We need to have that same type of personalized touch communication. And so that's what the follow-up blueprint is really about. And then we talk about how to find those connections in more of the online society.
Love it. So again, if you're watching or listening, make sure you go to elyspeaks.com/daily confidence and download the follow-up blueprint, right? Yep. And go through it, take a look. And I actually just signed up for it myself. I'm waiting for it to see it. Cool. And I'm going to start applying, and I'm going to start implementing what Ely talks about, because my business is all about follow-up as well. Yeah. So I need to know the follow-up blueprint. I'd love to see. And you know how we're all usually, most marketers are like cobblers in no shoes. Yeah. I more certainly have areas where I can improve my own follow-up, yeah. Right? Like we do done for you follow-ups through phone calls for our people, yeah. And our customers. But I'm pretty sure there are things that I could do to improve my own follow-up systems for a fact. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to downloading that.
And
now, Ely,
let me talk to that for just a second, because the cool thing about it is, like, I do a lot of the automation and the email side of things from the follow-up process. But like what you're doing is you're adding in the follow-up phone calls for your clients, and how do you build a better relationship with those clients? Well, a phone call is the easiest way to do that. And most people skip that altogether. When I work with my clients, we build this in. I'm like, okay, are you willing to pick up the phone and call people and touch base with them? Because if you are, it's going to be a lot more powerful. Let's add this to the mix. So the system provides the task for whoever's going to make that phone call to do it on a certain day at a certain time. Nothing Absolutely. Better than sending an email that says, hey, I wanted to check in with you and see how things are going. And then getting a phone call an hour later that says, hey, I just sent an email about this. I just want to check in and make sure you got the email and see if you had any questions. Your credibility is skyrocketed by doing something like that.
Absolutely.
Because it just doesn't happen.
So one thing I'm going to add to my Infusionsoft campaign is for this very download that I mentioned, simple retention formula checklist. We're going to add set the system up to create a task for me to call them.
Yep.
Now say, do the exact same thing that you just mentioned. That was another great thing for me. See, I told you I need improvements here and there, right?
This is stuff I dig on all day long. So
oh man, we could talk about this like for another week.
Pretty much, yeah. Right? Especially with what you do and what I do, it is such a natural.
It complements each other perfectly.
Yeah.
Like here's technology, here's human. We could do it together and like revolutionize your business.
Yep.
We'll be your revenue department.
There we go.
Right. So let me ask you a few questions, and I know we're running out of time.
Yep.
What's a new thing you have tried recently?
A new thing that I've tried recently. You know what? Actually, here's a great one. So if you're in front of the computer a lot like I am, a friend of mine had actually recommended getting blue light filter glasses. And so I picked these up from Amazon, and they fit over my regular glasses, which is great because, you know, without them, I can't see anything. And it is a night and day. If you're in front of the computer a lot, go to Amazon or wherever. I mean, these were like $22. Go pick up a set of these and use them. It will, the eye strain difference is amazing. Like usually by the end of the day, my eyes are just pulsing, and this makes a huge difference. So that is something new. I've had them for maybe 2 weeks.
Love it. Love it. Love it. What are your favorite books of all time? The top 2 or 3?
Oh, favorite books of all time. There's a couple of different ones with that. I mean, obviously the basic Think and Grow Rich, one of the best ones out there. The Myth of Multitasking by David Crenshaw is one of my all-time favorite books about the myth of what multitasking is. We say we multitask. We're great at multitasking. Well, multitasking is not a real thing. It's called switch tasking, and it actually is less productive than it could possibly ever make you more productive. So that's another one. And then one of my favorites for entrepreneurship as a whole is Me Inc. by Gene Simmons. I think it's required reading for anybody who's an entrepreneur. He talks about what it is like to truly be your own entity, your own brand. And he's the epitome of the perfect capitalist. So I highly recommend that. If you're in business, it's a must read.
Love it. Love it. Love it. What's one advice that made a massive impact on your life or business?
Oh, something that there's so many of them. I think one thing that
made a big impact in business or life.
Or you don't have to do it all yourself. And I still struggle with that one. That's why I'm a very big fan of automation, for the simple fact that I don't have to do it all. My automatic robots do a bunch of it for me. My Keep or Infusionsoft, whichever name you want to call it, I say that it's worth 2 full-time employees to me. It actually does the work of 2 full-time employees. But you don't have to do everything manually. You don't have to do it all. And most importantly, it really does boil down to the relationships you meet, because that is the most powerful thing.
Love it. Last question, Eli. If you had a Facebook ad or a Google ad where everyone on internet could see your ad, what would your message be for people of Earth?
I think the most important thing is don't stress about doing everything. Do the right things and spend the majority of your time meeting cool people.
Majority of your time meeting cool people.
Yep.
I have certainly done that over the past couple of months. Yeah, over the past 2 years, actually.
Yeah. Well, and I have to actually give you a thanks. I didn't even think about this at the correlation at the time. You introduced somebody to me just recently, and that person introduced me to somebody else, which is the summit that I am speaking on coming up in a couple of weeks, which is the person I was telling you about earlier, who said that they wanted to hear more about my coaching program and booked a separate call that I use that as an example. That all came from you. So I have to give you kudos and thank you for that.
Awesome.
I want to do that because I was like, wait a minute, this is why the world turns this way. Everything that I talked about today is based around this. So let's give a real world example. And it was,
love it.
That is I'm speaking at an event and have a new potential client purely because of the fact that you made one introduction to me. And I was introduced to you by a mutual friend of ours.
Absolutely. And it's like a never-ending chain.
Yeah.
Right. You just keep doing that, and people do that for you. And like you said, it's very important to mention this, that I do it to Ely, introduce Ely, but I may not necessarily get an introduction back from Ely. Maybe I'll get it from someone else.
Yeah. That's the go-giver. That's the go-giver. It's like, you don't know where it's going to come back from. It might come back in me sending a referral. It might be somebody else sending you a referral. It might be me coming up with a great idea that I'm like, hey, you know what? You should take this and run with it. You don't know how it's going to show up. Just know that it will.
But it will show up.
And just knowing that in your heart is super powerful.
Love it. Ely, is there anything that you'd like to share that we didn't get a chance to talk about?
Most importantly, I'll share one last little trick. It's a trick, but it's super, it's ridiculously obvious, but most people don't do it. I would love for everybody listening to this to connect with me, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever, but tell me, what was your big thing? And what did you take away from this? Okay. What was the nugget that you're going to take action on? And here's the secret to this is, number one, I love hearing these things. That makes me feel good to know that I was able to help and hear the results from that. So that helps my ego. Let's not hide that part. But here's the most important thing. If you're going to connect with somebody in the virtual world, don't just hit that friend request button. Don't just hit that connect button. Send them a message that goes with it. Why are you connecting with them? If you heard somebody on a show like this, tell them that. If you found somebody that you wanted to reach out, you want to reach out to Bob Berg and just say, hey, I read your book. This is awesome. Then don't just hit the button and send the message. You will stand out.
Yeah.
I get no less than 10 friend requests on Facebook every single day.
Yeah.
And usually 2 of them get answered, and those are the ones that stand out. The rest of them, when I find time down the road, eventually I'll get to them. Go Absolutely. Do that.
Yeah, when you add a message there, and it could be as little as taking a look at their profile and mentioning something personal about their profile that you might find in common.
Yeah.
Hey, I noticed we're both dog lovers. Let's chat. That's simple. That's not hard.
Yeah.
But it just gives you that extra touch that say, we have something in common. I'd like to accept this person's request. Yeah. That actually yesterday I watched someone on an interview on YouTube, found the guy's a big shot actually. Found him on LinkedIn, sent a message, and I said, I saw you on so-and-so's interview on YouTube. Great job. Looking forward to connecting. 2 seconds later, we're connected. Right?
Yeah.
And so it's not that hard.
No, it's not. And that's the best way, because, even people that are not as quote unquote approachable celebrities are a lot more approachable than you would think. Yeah. But you got to do something to stand out. You got to make them actually think you're not just a crazy stalker. And if you could just say one little sentence of, hey, I saw you here. This is what impact it made. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Boom. You just stood out like that.
Yeah. Simple. Yep. Yeah. Ely, thank you very much. This has been a very interesting conversation. I love what we do. Obviously, I love what I do. You love what you do. And I think we could do some magic together. The combination of follow-ups in different forms and automation and doing the personal human touch makes magic. And my experience, well over 99% of people don't do any of that.
Yep. I would agree 100% on that. Yep.
Like most they do is they send an email newsletter on a weekly basis, and here's another offer. That's not retention. That's not follow-up, right?
No.
And so, yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure being here. You could tell I have fun talking about this stuff.
Absolutely.
You said it earlier. We could probably geek out on this all day long, and
absolutely.
At some point we'll have to figure out a time to get together in real person and maybe hang out. And
I look forward to it.
Do that.
I look forward to it. So, gang, if you're watching or listening, as usual, please make sure you hit the like button. That really means a lot to me personally and to my guest. It tells me that you're watching and tells me that you did like it, right? Sometimes I see my own personal friends saying that they watch my show, but they don't like it. And I'm like, if you don't like it or comment, I don't know if that meant something to you, right? So if you're watching, please leave a comment, like it and or share it if you care to with other people who could benefit from this conversation and help people, fix their follow-up problem. My name is Mostafa Hosseini. Thank you for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you guys on our next episode. Have a great week, and we'll see you later.
Thank you, my friend.
Bye-bye.